accompanied by Rekuji. He is the cultural committee coordinator here. Good morning, Rekuji.
Good morning, Sumita. Welcome everybody to this program. Like Sumita said, spirituality in Indian classical music and dance. Very happy to be working with Sumita on this. As she said, it's a joint program between the cultural committee and the education committee. We've lined up a really good program. We hope to learn a lot from you all, the artists who are going to be presenting today, and we hope it's going to be educational to you all as well. It will feature lecture demonstrations, performances, panel discussions, several things which I think will highlight the spiritual aspect in our art forms, and we hope that it will be, like I said, educational to you all. Different people take different things from these spiritual forms. For some, it is just it is entertainment. For some, it has deeper meaning. We are hoping to, through this program, to kind of shed some light, or at least have different people share their experiences on the deeper meanings that they have felt, and what kind of transformations it has created in them, physically, spiritually, and hoping that they'll share it with everybody. I would like to, at this point, invite our chairperson of the temple, Shri Murli Alambilan, to deliver a few opening remarks.
Thanks, Raghu and Sumita. And thanks everyone for coming over here on a Saturday, beautiful Saturday morning. I know the subject of discussion today is spirituality in Indian classical music and dance, and the expression and experience of spirituality in performing arts. What a beautiful subject. I'm not a person to talk about this, but I do know this is the right place to talk about this subject, because this is a temple. You all know Shiva Vishnu temple. And I do know that Indian classical music and dance deep-rooted relationship with Hinduism, and of course it promotes spirituality. So in fact, music and classical music and dances are two areas of offerings to God. You all know that. And there are many ways to reach the God or to attain spirituality, whatever you call it. But music and dances, especially classical music and dances, are the best of those two. So without much, I welcome you on behalf of the Board of Trustees and on behalf of the larger congregation of the Shiva Vishnu Temple. I welcome you all to this beautiful temple, Sri Shiva Vishnu Temple, on this Saturday. I know there are a lot of panel discussions and a lot of presenters and who are experts in this subject, and we have our own Aparna here, who is moderating the panel discussion. So welcome, Aparna. I would also like to thank our Education Committee Coordinator, Sumita, and Cultural Committee Coordinator, Raghu, for making this happen. They are the stars of our temple. They arrange a lot of, every week we have cultural or educational programs happening right here at this auditorium. Please do come. This is not just a temple, this is also a cultural center, this is also an education center, or this is also a humanitarian center. You would have seen sandwich program happening right there at the auditorium. So please do visit often. This is your temple. And with that, once again, welcome you all to this program. All participants, panel discussion, panel presenters, and everyone to this beautiful Saturday morning. Thank you.
I request Shri Murli to please light the lamp to inaugurate the program.
Anna. Sumita.
Thank you, Murliji. Thank you, Rekhuji. Thank you, Aparnaji. Aparna is our Bala Vidyalayam teacher. Let us trace back to the origin of these art forms. The origin of these art forms can be traced back to the Vedas, the ancient Hindu scriptures. Lord Brahma created a simple Veda for the common man in the Kali Yuga, known as Panchama Veda, taking the nuances from Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda. He then gave it to sage Bharata, who conceived the Natya Shastra, from which the basis of all music and dance traditions were born. Our Puranas and Ithas are also resplendent with stories representing these art forms that led to the ultimate union with the Paramatma. Now we know the origin of these performing art forms. Now I look forward to hearing more from our esteemed artists for their views on this and how their experiences have paved the way to their spiritual progress. So without delay, let's move on to the first item. It's Nama Samkeertanam. It is curated by Sri Vignesh Subramaniam. The program will be conducted by kids who are learning under his guidance. Vignesh ji, please come onto the stage. Students, please come onto the stage. Let me introduce Vignesh. Vignesh Subramaniam is an outstanding vocalist whose music is reflected by a rich repertoire and a well-thought-out approach towards music. Vignesh trained with Guru Sri V. Sundareshan in style of his Guru Sangeeta Kalanidhi Sri D.K. Jayaraman. Vignesh is a sought-after teacher, concert artist, and a vocalist for classical Indian dance performances.
Namaste to everybody present here and a very good morning to all of you. At the outset, I would like to thank the SSVT's Education Committee and the Cultural Committee for this wonderful opportunity for all of us. It's been a wonderful learning experience for all the kids and I thank you all for that. So the Bhakti movement in India, it created a lot of wonderful compositions, created a lot of saints all over India, and it also created a sense of community singing and community worship. Be it Mirabai in the north to the Abhankartas, the Varkari Sampradaya in the west, to Jayadeva's Gita Govindam in the east, from Odisha, Manipur, to the Devarams, Divya Prabandhams in the south. These are just a few traditions which started out multiple traditions which keep evolving to this day and in turn create new traditions all across the country. So the Paddhati, the Sampradaya that we are representing today is the Bhajana Sampradaya from down south, which was conceived like 300-400 years back by Bodhendra Swamigal, Sridhara Ayyawal, and later taken forward by Sridhara Ayyawal. So this tradition has a specific paddhati, takes on compositions from all over India. It's kind of a pan-Indian sampradaya which takes songs from Gita Govinda, which takes songs from Narayana Tirtha's compositions, Tyagaraja, from Mirabai's compositions, from the Abhangs. it's a pan-Indian kind of a movement, it's a pan-Indian sampradaya. So there is a specific paddhati, there is a specific way this tradition is presented. So it usually starts out with a pundarikam and a prativachanam, which is singing the praise of the god, singing victory to the god, and the audience acknowledging it or responding it, followed by dhyana shlokas, where each of the deities that are going to be sung about are meditated upon. This is followed by Thodaya Mangalam, which is a set of compositions by Annamacharya, by Bhadrachala Ramadasu, by Vijay Gopala Swamigal, which was compiled by Marudanallur Swamigal. And then you have Guru Dhyanam, which is basically worship of all our gurus, starting from the first Guru, Adi Guru, Dakshinamurti, followed by Adi Shankara, and all the proponents of this sampradaya, that is Bodhendra Swamigal, Sridhara Ayyawal, and Marudanallur Swamigal, and all other gurus. This is followed by Abhangs, this is followed by Ashtapadis, Narayana Tirthas, Tarangams, followed by Panchapadi, which is just a composition of 5 composers, basically Bhadrachala Ramadasu, Tyagaraja, Purandaradasa, Sadashiva Brahmendra, and Gopala Krishna Bharati. Followed by the Dhyana Kritis or Devati Dhyanam, which praises each of the god, Ganesha, Saraswati, Muruga, Shiva, Parvati, Vishnu. Following this, you have the Divyanama Kritis, after which you have the Dolotsavam, where the god is put to sleep. Followed, this is the Anjaneya Kriti, and you have a Mangalam. So if you see, it's a long drawn out tradition which can go over multiple days, go for hours together, and it's a wonderful community building exercise where people are together for that spiritual experience, for that experience of bhakti over hours or for multiple days, and that energy of all the people in that place, of all the people in the community, gets passed on, and that's a wonderful experience. So what we are going to present today is just an excerpt from this wonderful tradition. We are just going to present Dhyana Kritis, Devati Dhyanam, which praises each of these gods. We have songs on Ganesha, Muruga, Shiva, Parvati, Vishnu, and Anjaneya. So that's what we are going to present. This being a communal thing, community event, what I would request is, if possible, join along in repetitions or in the Namavalis. That would be wonderful encouragement for the kids as well. So thank you once again. Namaste.
Thank you, Vignesh ji, for immersing all of us in this Bhakti Rasa. Thank you for all the blessings and grace invoked by these kids. Let's give another round of applause to the Nama Samkeertanam team. And our singers are Amrit Bharadwaj, Shreya Vaidyanathan, Shrija Vaidyanathan, Hriday Parashuraman Iyer, Krishay Parashuraman Iyer, Karun Natarajan. On the harmonium, we have Rutajit Shetty. On the mridangam, we have Ramakrishnan Govidat. Thank you so much. Next item is a Kathak performance. The Story of the Soul by Purvi Bhatt. Let me introduce Purvi ji to you all. Purvi Bhatt is a multifaceted Kathak exponent, performer and a teacher. She is a disciple of late Guru Sri Vasantarao Kech and renowned Guru Pandita Manisha Sathe, the torchbearer of Nataraj Gopi Krishnaji's dance style. She holds Nritya Visharad and Nritya Alankar in Kathak from Bharati Vidyapith University, Pune. Purvi has been teaching and performing Kathak in the DC metro area since 1999 and prior to that in India. She served as a cultural coordinator on the executive board of Durga Temple and as a chairperson of IDEA. She is the artistic director of Lasya Kathak Dance Academy. It's my pleasure to welcome Purvi ji and her team to the stage.
Namaste. Kathak, the story of the soul. As the title suggests, the word Kathak is derived from Katha, meaning story. It is also synonymous with the community of artists known as Kathakas, whose hereditary profession was to narrate stories, act, sing, dance, and mime. And they used to mime favorite episodes from Hindu mythology and ancient epics such as Mahabharata and Ramayana. Eventually, the dance made its way to Hindu temples, where the elaborate routines of physically narrating the epics became part of religious ritual. By the 13th and 14th centuries, it became increasingly influenced by the spiritual movement known as Bhakti. It was during this time that episodes from the life of Lord Krishna and consort Radha became part of the repertoire. The dancers' purpose was to completely immerse themselves in devotion to God. To achieve this, the dancer would assume various roles such as a narrator, a god, or sometimes even an evil. We'll witness this devotion to Lord Krishna in an invocatory piece, a shloka called Kasturi Tilakam, presented by Dipali Bhatt.
Nasagre सर्वांगे हरिचंदनं सुविमलं कंठे च मुक्तावली गोपस्त्री परिवेशिता
With the arrival of Mughals in India, Kathak entered the Mughal courts in the 16th century. And with the passage of time, it transformed itself from being a dance which had the fervor of bhakti rasas to sheer entertainment in praise of the Muslim kings. Muslim emperors demanded songs and dances in praise of them. Kathak developed a linear dance form as opposed to other circular Indian classical dance styles. You will witness this in our next presentation. During this period, Kathak proved its progressive penchant by adopting new movement vocabulary and disposition of Mughal arts while still keeping the integrity of its pedigree. In this era, the main elements and characteristics of Kathak dance were developed. The use of footwork, spins, intricate rhythmic displays, and angular movements became the signature trademark of Kathak that you see today. The devotional Kathak, dancers of temples, became the entertainers in Mughal courts with lavish costumes, refined movement, and rhythmic vocabulary. Extraordinary aesthetics became a sensual art form. Kathak became a sensual art form which leaned towards romanticism and therefore shifted the disposition of being a temple dance to a court dance. As we all know, Tal and Lay are the soul of the music. All dance styles are confined within the framework of one particular Tal. Kathak is the only dance style where that brings out the soul of the Tal, and the Tal is presented in depth. The next presentation is the Teen Tal, which is a 16-beat rhythmic cycle, in which the dancers will present compositions like Thaat, Paranamad, Parans, Chakradhar Paran, and Tatkar, presenting Teen Tal.
Hello, everyone. Namaste. So far, I hope you are all enjoying this morning, afternoon. We're almost into the afternoon now. So you have seen two presentations so far, and now we are going to enter into a new era of Kathak dance. Purvi already had mentioned that Kathak comes from storytelling. So we as Kathakas, we are storytellers. Story cannot be told unless you put your heart and soul into it. There are different ways, everyone expresses differently in different ways of telling the stories. Also, one has to be very true to the character he or she is playing. Only then the true emotions would come out. So we are moving on to the Nritya aspect of Kathak, and we are also going to witness few compositions that are from the Mughal era. Kathak is such a inclusive and flexible dance style that both Hindus and Muslims have expressed through Kathak. So now we will be witnessing few compositions that come from the Mughal era. And we have lot of gifts from Mughals. You will see them through each of the compositions. The first one is going to be a thumri that is composed by a legendary Kathak dancer, Pandit Bindadin Maharaj. In this thumri you'll see the famous Radha Krishna duo, and you will see it's Chechar, Krishna trying to break Radha's pot, Krishna trying to throw sand in her eyes, etc. And of course she gets annoyed and she decides to complain to his parents, but eventually Krishna wins her heart with his innocence and love. That's what you'll see in this thumri. Let's watch.
Murida
So you did see the emotional or Nritya aspect of Kathak. Now again, let's move on to the technical aspect of Kathak. We will be presenting a Tarana. Now Tarana is also, like I said, is a gift from Mughals. Tarana basically has lot of syllables, lot of musical syllables. It's a rhythmic composition. It has lot of complex footworks. It will also have lot of pirouettes. Tarana, it's said that it originated from as a Persian way of a devotional piece. Okay, that's how. So the words of Tarana, they did have meaning once upon a time. But over the period, there were less people who would understand the language, and eventually the bowls were changed. And then now we say the bowls or the rhythmic syllables that are used in Tarana do not have a meaning. Presenting a Tarana. that was the Rana. And I'm sure you also noticed the way her costume was different than the previous presentation. The dupatta that was taken on her head, that is basically shows that the dance or the composition is from the Mughal era. Now we will be moving on to the last presentation or last composition from our group. We began with Vandana, and Vandana is a devotional piece by Hindus. We worship our gods, Krishna, Shiva, through Vandana. The last piece is also a devotional piece, but this piece is coming from the Mughal era, so it has mystic Islamic belief, which means this piece is a Sufi composition. It's in the form of a qawwali, again Mughal area. Sufi compositions, they come also from Persian language. Originally they were written in Persian language. Many other languages also have influence of this kind of literature. For example, Punjabi, Pashto, and Turkish as well. You will see some glimpses of this. So in this composition, again, a dancer is trying to connect with the Almighty, Parvardigar. So this is again a very soulful piece, devotional piece, where usually in Qawwali, the dancers used to portray that they are in love with God. So it is, and then they are waiting for that union, longing for the God. That is the basic emotion behind this composition. Also, I want to say that Sufi dancers, when they used to dance, they used to twirl, lot of twirling, so lot of pirouettes, and that's how we got pirouettes in Kathak. And they used to, so the Sufi, basically, they used to wear the cloth that is made with the wool, and that's how the costume is typically, usually, a white color costume. So now presenting the last composition from our group. It is a Sufi composition, Parvardigar.
शोहरत का ताज गुरबत की गाज सुरताल साज सब तेरा तेरा तुझे मैं सौंप दूं कुछ भी नहीं है अब मेरा परवरदिगार 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 परवरदिगार
Thank you, Purviji. Those were really soulful performances, right? Let's give another round of applause to these talented dancers. Let me introduce those dancers to you. Dipali Bhagat, Prajakta Goke, Akanksha Tibrwala, Tara Nair, and Purvi Bhatt. So Purvi has another event to go today afternoon. So she is here just to perform for us. So let's give another round of applause. So she explained everything, right? History, art, science, everything in a nutshell for us. Thank you so much. Our next item is a Bharatanatyam performance.
As Sumita just said, next we're going to learn and experience another beautiful performing art form, Bharatanatyam. This will be led by Vidya Shankaranarayanan. To give a brief introduction, Vidya Shankaranarayanan is an established dancer and singer in the field of Bharatanatyam. She is a senior exponent of the distinguished style of the famous late Sri K.P. Kittappa Pillai. She was educated in singing of padams and nuances of Abhinaya by late Srimati Lakshmi Knight, daughter and disciple of the legendary Srimati T. Balasaraswati, as well as Balasaraswati's disciple Srimati Shyamala Mohanraj. Vidya is the director of Brihadisha School of Music and Dance. The school was started in 2009 to preserve and protect the purity of standards and ideology that was originally shaped, molded, and upheld by her teachers and their lineage. Vidya co-produced a video documentary, Silambu Kudam, in Isai Vellalar tradition from families who are considered as the custodians of this sacred tradition. She has been performing Bharatanatyam for the past 25 years, both in India and the US. We now invite Vidya and team to the stage.
Namaste, and I would like to thank SSVT cultural team and the Dharma Foundation for giving me this opportunity. I would like to take this opportunity to speak little about my Guru Kittappa Pillai, who was a direct descendant of Thanjavur Kotak, a brilliant composer and a Natrunar, who were honored by royal patrons during the period time of cultural ferment. Chinnaya, Ponnaya, Shivanandam and Vadivelu, who were the prime disciples of Muthuswami Dikshita, and they enriched both the musical repertoire and the range of dance movement associated in Bharatanatyam. In today's presentation, I'll be discussing a few aspects of the dance pedagogy and the emphasis of these teachers and performers, who were among the last representatives of the hereditary styles of dance in Tamil Nadu. Today's presentation is a reflection of the information I gathered during my research video documentary about the Isai Vellalar tradition from families as the custodians of the sacred art form. The points I'll be making in these presentations are derived from my experiences learning from my Guru Kittappa Pillai and Srimati Lakshmi Knight, daughter and disciple of the legendary expert Srimati T. Balasaraswati from the Thanjavur lineage of female practitioners. Music and dance were the integral part of the rituals of the great temples of South India. From about 11th century onwards, kings in many South Indian kingdoms were seen as protectors of the dharma, or the Hindu or the social order. From a political point of view, the king's role as a patron of the temple and of the artist who served the temple was an important as his military power. Some scholars have suggested that medieval Tamil kings, Rajaraja Chola the first ruled theatre arts in which Daily and annual cycles of rituals in the temple showed the king's power, concern for his people. Rajaraja built the great temple of Tanjavur in the 11th century. This temple remained an important center for dance as a ritual until about 50 years ago. The daily cycle of ritual in the Brihadishwara temple began with waking the god and ended with the singing him to sleep. The annual cycle included many festival days, the most important one being Chittirai festival. In order to support these rituals, the king recruited many temple employees, particularly musicians and dancers, had the significant roles in temples, rituals and worship. In the Shaiva temples where the Lord Shiva is worshipped, a community of singers called the Oduvars were employed. They were highly skilled at setting the complicated rhythms and medieval Tamil poetry to music and complex beats. They sang these poems during temple rituals and also trained singers. The role of Devadasis in the temples. Among those who served the temple, a very important group of female employees were Devadasis. Ritually married to the god when they were young, the Devadasis were highly skilled dancers and a highly respectable social status. They performed an older version of the form we call Bharathanatyam today, as folk dances. In some temples, while the priest performed the ritual inside in the temple, the Devadasis imitated the movements Shodacha Upachara in dance form outside the shrine so that the crowds outside it could see what was happening. They also danced in royal and religious processions in the temple courtyard. They were also a more ritual-related dance that was performed in Tanjavur temples by Devadasis, especially during the Chitrai festival, was a Navasanthi Kautvam and the Panchamurti Kautvams. The Navasanthi Kautvams are danced for the 9 different directions and their presiding deities. The presiding deities of these different directions is Brahma in the center, with the Indra in charge of the east, Agni in charge of the southeast, Yama for the south, Nairuti for the southwest, Varuna for the west, Vayu for northwest, Kubera for north, and Ishanya for the northeast. The 9 Kautvams also describe the detailed attributes of the particular deity, their Vahana, their throne, their consorts, their responsibilities, the astas they use, and even their preferred Tala and Raga. At the end of each of the Kautvams, there will be a mention of the pan, which is equivalent to Raga. The pan is actually the Tamil word for the Ragam, that what we say now. These dances were done as offerings to the deities, in order to please them, so the rest of the festivals can be conducted successfully. Starting besides the flagpole, that is the Dvajastambam, I think you can see even in the temple when you go upstairs, there is a Dvajastambam behind it, the Brahma, the middle of the, this side talking about that was happening in the Tanjavur temple. In the middle of the vast courtyard, where Lord Brahma resides, the dancer would move clockwise around the temple with all their musicians. They would stop and perform corresponding Kautvam at each point of the 8-point compass, praisingly the deity in charge of the position. These were composed by Gangai Muthu Nadmanar, who was a great-grandfather of the Tanjavur quartet. It is believed that, from what I have gathered from my guru, was this was a musical form, probably until the Tanjavur court brothers, forefathers, where there was just a composition they used to sing. And during the Tanjavur quartet period, this was actually set into a dance. That is what I have heard from my guru. As years passed, the practice of performing Navasanthi Kautvams were slowly forgotten, and practice of performing this in temples completely stopped. My Guru Sri K.P. Kittappa Pillai, who was a direct descendant of the Tanjavur quartet, was the one who revived and reconstructed the Navasanthi Kautvam and adapted some parts of it for the concert stage. Today, the Brahmasanthi Kautvam will be presented by my students. This is in Ragam Madhyamavati, Talam Tishram. The Brahma's Vadyam is Sat Sat Sputam, and the Ragam that is Madhyamavati. Nrittam is Kamala Nrittam, Talam is Brahma Talam, and the Pan I was talking is Megha Ragam. Megha Ragam is the Neelambari, the equivalent raga in Tamil it's a Neelambari Ragam. I believe that right after they finished the Navasandhi Kautums in all the direction from when they finish the Brahma Sandhi on that part and under that pole, when they start and when they finish the dancing it, the Oduvas would start singing the Devaram in that Megha Ragam, in the Neelambari Ragam. But I have not, I don't know, for some reason my Guru has never done the Devarams, but he has spoken so much how the relevant raga and all that. We are not very sure whether it was performed or was just sung, because after Tanjavur brothers, their sons probably have been conducting this in the temple, and after that I think it has come to a stop. Then it was my Guru, he composed, he has revived and reconstructed. So if personally, like if when I had this conversation with my Guru and he said it was there in the manuscripts, he had to write the notation and he gave a shape to what. We are not sure whether this was how it was done like 200 years ago, but at least he has given the shape, and because he is from that lineage, he understood what went in the content of it. So my student Shriya and Samiksha, they will be presenting the Navasandhi Kautum, the Brahma Sandhi, the first one. wanted to say Shreya, she just finished her Ranga Pravesham this summer, and Samiksha is still in the process of getting there. I made these two to dance at the same time. I didn't try to fix the number of times or the way they move because I want to talk more in detail the progression in the panel discussion how as a dancer we progress, like from the stage, from first stage to the second, and how we internalize, and that is the reason I made it not a copycat, like move at the same time. I just want them to the understanding of how the art form itself going. That is the reason they were all not in sync. And I would like to also say, even though we talk that today's topic is about the spirituality, but it is incomplete if I don't talk about the rasa, especially the Shringara in Bharatanatyam, and it is something that is internal part. As I was talking about this Devadasis were dancing, where we're just dancing the ritualistic form. Yes, it was also part of that they were doing in the temples, but at the same time, they were also performing for the royal courts, in the royal courts, and in praise of the king who were patronizing their art. But there was always a misconception that whatever, as my biodata said, that I've done my documentary. I have went and looked at Thiruvarur Tilakam, who was a Devadasi community from that community, and few others. So they were all saying that, and from the Balamas family also. Even the Shringara is one of the 9 rasas. It's very important, and that Shringara gives a scope for other kind of a fear, compassion, and jealousy and everything. So they said it was a misconception that was only done in the royal court, but I believe it is also done inside the temple. But when they do inside the temple, it is usually about the presiding deity of that place. So when it happens outside the temple, in the royal courts, it was about the praise of the king, because they need to please somebody who are feeding them. So it is, we all say that Devadasis, like, we just see the spirituality in dance, but without Shringara, it's a cycle of, I think, is a birth and death, like, it is there, everything should be there. There's two sides of the coin, like it's a good and bad, and it is so, Shringara, we cannot eliminate from the Bharatanatyam repertoire. So usually the situation would be that the lady is calling for a lover, the dancer presents a typical of the hero and Nayika in state of separation or union. Shringaram pieces can also be taken in an approach where the human being is a lady love waiting for union with the divine. So I'm going to end the demonstration with a glimpse of Varnam Mohamana. It's in about the Thiruvarur Tyagesha. I'm just going to do 5 minutes of just two lines to get an idea. Yeah, Shreya will be just reading out the meaning. I'll just show the hands, and then from there I can start doing it.
So the first line says, I am stricken with love for you at this moment. The second line follows, how can you be so indifferent, my lord? The third line, O dweller in the lovely city of Tanjavur, of Thiruvarur. The Nayika finishes by saying the fourth line, O amores Tyagesha, come to me for love's sake.
நீ இந்த வேளையில் மோக மனையில் மீது நீ இந்த வேளையில் மோக மனையில் மீது நீ இந்த வேளையில் மோடி செய்யலமோ என் ஆமி மேயதமோடி செய்யலமோ என் ஆமி மேயதமோடி செய்யலமோ என் ஆமி மேயதமோடி செய்யலமோ என் ஆமி மேயத நகரி கமன திருநகரில் வாசரை நகரி கமன திருநகரில் வாசரை நகரி கமன திருநகரில் வாசரை நகரி கமன திருநகரில் வாசரை போக தியாகீஷ அனுபோகம் செய்ய கீட்ட மோக தியாகீஷ அனுபோகம் செய்ய கீட்ட மோக தியாகீஷ அனுபோகம் செய்ய கீட்ட மோக தியாகீஷ அனுபோகம் செய்ய கீட்டனி சரி சனி ரே நீதப.
Thank you, Vidya ji. That was a beautiful performance. We learned a lot about history. The role of Tanjavur Kathak and all other lineage who played their role to see the Bharatanatyam that we are seeing today. Let me introduce dancers. Samiksha, okay, Shriya. Let's give a big round of applause for this young talented dancer. and Srishta. Samiksha, she came here, I saw her running. Oh, the ways, okay. So we have these beautiful dancers here. Thank you so much.
Next, we move on to another interesting session. This will be the first of two panel discussions today. We'll get the stage set up and then we'll invite the panelists to come on stage.
Our next session is really interesting. It's a panel discussion. So I invite all the panelists to come out to the stage and take their seats. So I'm going to introduce these panelists to you. We have Lakshmi Swaminathan. Lakshmi Swaminathan, she is the director of Natananjali School of Dance based in Bethesda, Maryland. For the past 20 years, Lakshmi has been teaching and promoting Bharatanatyam in Maryland through school assemblies, TV shows, and well-appreciated performances in the communities at large. She has also organized several multi-school dance events to raise funds for charitable causes. Welcome, Lakshmi ji. Now we have J. Shivakumar. Shivakumar is a Carnatic musician and a musicologist residing in Northern Virginia for the past 25 years. He has a music school named Gamakam. They make thematic presentations in the DC area. His gurus include Padmasri Awadi, Sangeeta Kalacharya, Professor S.R. Janaki Raman, and Mrs. Maragatam Ramaswamy. Welcome, sir. And we have next panelist, Purvi ji. We have all witnessed an amazing performance by Purvi ji. Welcome Purvi ji. And she is a celebrated Kathak dancer for those who have arrived now. And next we have Vidya ma'am. She is an established dancer and singer in the field of Bharatanatyam. I welcome you all to this panel discussion. And finally, we have Aparna Ramaswamy. So I must take a few minutes to recognize Aparna ji because it was her thought. So that this thought of this event came to her mind, and what is a reality now is because of her. Just want to thank you. Thank you, Aparna ji. And she is also a Dharma Vidyalayam teacher. So she will be setting the tone for panel discussion, and I'm going to hand over to her.
My place here is not so much to preach to the choir, so to say, but curiosity on what is spirituality to everybody. Of course, the textbook definition is when you close your eyes, what you experience is not physical, it's not sensory, it's not what you heard, it's not what you see, but you go to another space where you transcend that which is physical, which is called metaphysical or spiritual. So what are we doing here about spirituality of dance and music in a temple? When you go upstairs and you hear the priests recite the mantras, the shlokas, when you sit at the Homagundam and you watch them doing prayers in yajna, that is their artistry of what to say, how to say it, and how to conduct the prayer, which is defined in our Vedas, which is defined in our Agama Shastras. But when you do that, where does that line between religiosity and rituals blend into spirituality? They were never meant to be discrete. One way, of course, is when you are listening to it, close your eyes. When we heard the Harinama Samkeertanam in the beginning, when they're singing a song and you close the eyes as an audience member, that which you experience transcends the physical. But for the performers, a musician may be able to close their eyes and sing. I wouldn't advise dancers to do that. That would be a little tough. How do we experience spirituality when we are dancing or when we are singing? When you are whatever kind of art, there's not a verb for it, I'm going to create it. When you are arting, how do we experience spirituality in it? We want to ask them. The second aspect, in Indian dancing and music, we limited it to classical. We share the same text, the Natya Shastram. The Natya Shastram is the seminal text for all natyas and all music. Whether it's instrumental, whether it's Vadyam, Geetam. It was called Sangeetam. When everything comes together, so they never expected to be standalone. Music became standalone much later on. And I'm sure we'll hear from our expert later on about that. There is no dance without music. There is music without dance. Musicians can close their eyes and experience a spirituality, whether it's in lyrics or in the experience. Dancers build on that, they amplify that. And what does a dancer feel? And how does the dancer express what they feel to you? Because the Natya Shastra is unequivocal in this. There is only one purpose in the Natya Shastra. Whether you're dancing, whether you're singing, whether you're doing whatever you're doing, it is to make you, the audience, experience rasa. If the audience is cold, you're not doing Natyam. Absolute. You may be brilliant in your artistry. You may have a lot of acrobatic movements. That is in Natyam. Our mandate is very, very simple, but very complicated. We have 3 words: bhava, abhinaya, rasa. Bhava is the emotion, whether it's in music or whether it's in dance. When you feel that bhavam, step 1. Step 2, abhinaya. Communicate it to you, the audience. Depending on the art form, the abhinaya is different. But no matter whether you're spoken abhinaya, vachik abhinaya, whether you're dressed in a masked kind of dress in angika abhinaya, it all is powered by sattvika abhinaya. What you feel. If you are dancing or singing without the feeling, you're not going to get to step 3. Step 1, there is emotion in the music or dance given to us by beautiful choreographers. And that's where the terminology of yoga comes in very handy. Para Pashyanti Madhyama Vaikari. The para yoga, when they intuit it, whether you see it in Michelangelo, whether you see it in Da Vinci, they all tell you, they just sensed it. They heard it in a way that nobody did it. That's a bhavam. Second is again abhinayam, sattvik abhinayam. Feel it. And you will still not get to the third one, which is rasa. How do you get the audience to feel what I feel? So the 3-part, experience of bhavam, expression through abhinaya, experience of rasa. And my curiosity is, what is the language each one of you have? So I'd like to invite my dear friend and talented colleague, Lakshmi, to please moderate it. Looking forward.
Thank you, Aparna. You can all hear me through my mask, I'm assuming. I'm just trying to be a little safe for one more week. Namaskaram. And I would like to begin by saying thank you to SSVT Cultural Committee and the Education Committee for giving us this opportunity to have this conversation. And I'm very excited to be amongst my friends and colleagues Purvi, Vidya, and Mr. Shivakumar. Aparna gave a very beautiful introduction to Natyam. and bhava and abhinaya and rasa. But what is spirituality to me? It is faith, it is belief, and it is a connection. When I am a performer, it is my connection to the god or the goddess that the particular song is in praise of. As a person, spirituality is my connection with fellow human beings, with nature, with the universe, and always having this faith and belief that there is one supreme being above all of us. As a teacher, spirituality is inculcating in my students the first step towards spirituality. It's a journey, it's a process. We don't just attain it or reach it in one day. It is a lifelong process. When I started learning dance, my interest was to get dressed in the beautiful costumes and jewelry, like Aparna was saying, Aharya element, being on stage and performing. 50 years into this beautiful world of Bharatanatyam, it is a completely different position that I am in. If and when I perform, it is because I am moved to connect with the Almighty or the Supreme Being. So I would like to know from my fellow panelists, I will begin with you, Mr. Shivakumar, what is spirituality to you? How would you define spirituality?
That's a pretty loaded question. For me, spirituality transcends religion and faith. You know, it's especially, I mean, given today's environment where people think in fairly narrow terms of religion, I think it's the need of the society, global society, to think in terms of spirituality that binds humanity. So for me, spirituality is something that is common to the entire human race, and that they just don't see it that way. I mean, from a music point of view, you know, when it comes to Carnatic music, of course, when we think about spirituality or bhakti, we immediately think about the great compositions of the musical trinity. And so there have been great compositions before and after the musical trinity, but it is fair to say that Carnatic music as we practice today, as we teach today, is centered around the music of the trinity. And when you, whether you are a performer or a teacher or a student, you are learning the music, okay? You cannot teach spirituality. You are learning the music, but you cannot separate, you cannot learn a Tyagaraja Kriti without having an insight into his bhakti, of getting into, I mean, in order to learn the Kriti well, you can learn the mechanics, but in order to fully learn the Kriti, you have to get into the mind of the composer. So, spirituality for me is, it's also the search for excellence, especially in the field of, in the field of music. I mean, in Tamil we say, Seyyum Thozhile Deivam. Whatever you do, you have to do it sincerely, okay? And that's a very spiritual statement. But especially in the field of music, in the Carnatic, I mean, in classical music, we also have a body of work that is essentially spiritual in nature, spiritual, devotional in nature. So for me, I cannot talk about music to my students without getting them to appreciate the spiritual fabric of our music. So I don't know if I'm answered your question to the point, but I just wanted to give a broader picture of how how spirituality plays a role in my music practice.
I think that is the point of this panel, is to get everyone's perspective. So there is no right or wrong answers. At least I hope so, because even I am not sure. Purvi, how about you?
To me, spirituality, as Lakshmi said, personally, yes, connecting with God. That's personally, I will say that. But as a Kathak dancer, as we all know that dance is a language of self-expression, and especially Kathak, because it's a very technical as well as graceful dance. As a dancer, I will say, when I do my riyaz with the help of tabla, just losing myself doing tatkar or a footwork for a number of hours. At that time, just closing my eyes and just listening to the sound of tabla. Sometimes even without music, with the help of ghungroos, just myself and ghungroos. And also, if I'm creating a new if I'm creating a new choreography or a composition in a challenging tal or a complicated tal, trying to find that perfect sum to land, to create a new composition to land on sum. And when you achieve that, it's practicing again and again to achieve that, as he said, the best of it, you know. That I think it's a spirituality. And as he said, it's a lifelong journey. It is not easy, but it's not possible to communicate with students unless until they are, you know, matured and that they are at that age. It requires a lot of hard work, at the same time a lot of understanding and a lot of awareness, self-awareness. So I would say, as a dancer, when I have that self-awareness, that I feel that inner consciousness, that I can connect with God, and even while doing the expressional pieces, the nritya aspects, finding that perfect sublime gestures, connecting with finding the Radha and Krishna's love, all that. So yeah, I think that's personal.
So it's all about the connection.
Yes.
It's always about the connection. So even if you're doing nritta, I think it can be a spiritual experience if you are connecting, as you said, with the movements, the beat, and when you said you land on that perfect sum, and you know that yes, that yes feeling.
Yes.
How about you, Vidya?
As everybody said, I'm going to resonate the same thing because we are all in the same field. It is actually spirituality is itself a self-discovery, I guess. It is a process. It doesn't happen overnight, and we take it's. Of course, art is the only thing that is going to get us closer to God, or even our presence, like whatever we are feeling inside, within. Like I use this term in my class a lot when she was talking about the nritta, like, you know, even look beyond. You know, that beyond is always in the class, like when they're learning the fundamentals, like say, look beyond. Then that is a basic fundamental, like when they're doing the adavu, the abstract, you know, small things to tell them, just don't look at the hands, look big. But slowly as they mature, like as you have seen those two girls, like, you know, when they rigorously get into the training and understand deeper, that goes within. They try to connect. The beyond becomes within, like that. Again, I'm resonating the same. It's a connection that when I did the Varnam now, am I visualizing really Tivaru Tyagesha, or I'm taking the all the vibes from the music and to the context, to the text, and I am connecting myself within first. Then only I can see anything outside, the outcome of that. And this I really wanted to share. For me, spirituality also comes from these guru great legends. Like when I learning from Vadyar, like going into the house of Tanjavur Kotrat, which was given by Tulaja period, and there was some energy in that. If that is called spirituality, yes, that is a spirituality for me. And Vadyar and Balamas, I never seen my guru being very ritualistic, that's what, or being bhakti oriented. But on the other side, like when I was very close to Balama's family, their family is so bhakti oriented. They see dance itself a bhakti and they do puja, very religious. But what I see common in them is the surrender to the art form. It is irrespective of being ritualistic or not. The surrender is what? That as an artist, if we see that is the connection, that is the within, I think. That's what the audience also can see from us.
Wonderful, thank you. So you kind of touched a little bit on my next one, which was going to be about students. So I'm going to try to rephrase it a little bit now. No, that's okay, that's perfectly. It has to happen organically. It's not supposed to be like framed exactly so. So we heard about spirituality from all of you, about the connection. We are also teachers. It is a very, very difficult topic to broach with your students as teachers. Has this ever come up in any of your interactions with your students? No. And so if it has not come up, if it has, please do share. If it has not come up, how would you broach this vast topic with your students? I will start with Purvi.
So, as you said, I have never talked about it with my students, but I can say that when I talk to them, I will talk about senior students first. I ask them, how do you feel, or after the performance, right? How did you feel? Do you feel happy, or are you, forced to do something, or is it too much pressure? Because students are in so much pressure nowadays. But they say no. In fact, when we dance, we forget about all the stressors around us. We forget about all the tensions, and not just the academics. They mentioned this to me, that not just academics, but even the other stressors of life. So they say that no, we dance, we forget about everything, and we are thoroughly and really enjoying that. And that's why we come back, we love to dance. So I believe they start experiencing that at that age. So obviously I have not talked with them one-on-one on that particular topic. But I believe that's their starting point to feel that and taking them towards spirituality, because they've started feeling that inner consciousness and starting to especially learning the nritya pieces. Especially in Kathak, we only teach after a certain age. We do not teach in young age. And they have to have that maturity to understand and do those subtle gestures and expressions, because it is not very dramatic. We don't. So I feel it's a process. And when they tell me this, I think that's the connection, and students are making towards it.
How about you, Vidya?
It's when they start, not all the kids come with passion, it is like any other classes they go. The parents sent with the, sent for learning a culture. But yes, I do teach kids when they are there, when they teach any kautums like this Brahma Sandhi or any kautums, I teach them the history behind that. Some kids have a background of knowing about what is God, what is Krishna, who is Ganesha, and who is, but most of the kids, they don't have a clue. So before I start the piece, I teach them how it's all connected, even talk, because our Bharatanatyam has a lot of sancharis. So I talk about the story of how it is related to that context, to the Varnam, or even a small Kriti. And but that is the beginning of it. Like, you know, there are a lot of times Shreya was sitting there, like she had, not with all the students you can have that kind of a conversation, even come to the level of talking about bhakti or finding the difference. Some kids, they just learn, they leave. But it is up to the students how much they want to go deeper and dwell into it. And it is, we can't keep giving, there should be the other end to take it, to receive it as well. So she has asked me quite a lot. We had before this thing, we had a lot of talk about why when we do Shringara Padam, Shringaram especially, like we say Jivatma, Paramatma, is it going to enlighten me? That is the question she has asked. I said, that was a question for myself to think, like, you know, the Thiruvul Varano Padam, she has asked me, like, you know, who is waiting for whom and what? It is a connection of what? What Jivatma and Paramatma are we talking? And what is the context of it? So, for a student like that, I can make them to understand the deeper level, how the connection is just not the tech. It is, you connect, you see, the one that I tell them is within is what the Paramatma. I think we see what within, like the connection is the Paramatma. And then we connect ourselves, like with all the movements and the energy, whatever. So, yes, I do have sometimes conversation with very few students. Some have just learned and left it.
Very interesting, thank you. Mr. Shivakumar?
My situation is a little different. All my students are adults except one high schooler. I discovered from my experience that I'm not very good when it comes to teaching children. So when people come to me with that request, parents come to me, I point them to many wonderful teachers in the area. So in that sense, I mean, actually, it's a double-edged sword. It's easier to teach adults at some level, but they're also opinionated. So, which is good, but it is just that sometimes when I want to convey something, they have their own interpretations, and they tell me, okay, this Kriti. I mean, right away they say something about the raga, something about the Kriti. I encourage that, but I sometimes feel, if only I was allowed to give my perspective first, and then, because as a teacher, you want to not just teach the raga or the Kriti, but you also want to teach what you feel. You want to convey that. And in terms of discussions about spirituality, we don't really have that, because I typically teach in a group, and also thanks to the pandemic, it has been a lot over Zoom, so it doesn't have the benefit of the one-on-one interaction. However, I always say, when you talk about the bhakti or of the Vagyakara, we don't necessarily need to feel the same thing. It's because it's very individualistic. How the same Kriti, same raga affects each person. Music appreciation itself is very individualistic. But at a minimum, we have to appreciate what the Vagyakara felt. You know, when you sing, especially when it comes to Tyagaraja Kritis, there are a lot of Kritis were composed in reaction to what he experienced in life. In case of Dikshidhar, it was, for example, it was a little bit different because he went to different temples. There was a little bit formalism, Sthala Purana and all that. So, depending on the Kriti, I try my best to talk about the the lyrics and I mean the sahityam and the meaning, but I draw. I don't necessarily give word by word meaning, but I draw whatever is special about the metaphors that is used in the meaning and all that. So my experience has been sometimes I will teach a very simple kriti. Recently we prepared for Dikshata Day presentations, taught them some very short, simple kritis. I was really surprised at the impact it created, because some rare ragas, especially with the Vivadi Swarams and all that, they came back and said, oh, I mean, this is just stunning. You know, initially it sounded a little bit bizarre, but the more we get into it. So the point is that individual experience is different. We cannot teach them. We can share your experience of how you appreciated it. You know, I always tell them stories about when I first learned it from my guru, what I felt. So I think as a teacher, the best you can do is be true to the art form, the content, and the push for excellence. Share your experiences, and if you're sincere, how each student is going to take when they feel that connection, when they feel that there is something more to what meets the eye. How each student is going to experience it's very individualistic. And of course, you should also encourage the students naturally to share that with you. Because sometimes it has also worked the other way. You know, sometimes I think some prayoga is so outstanding, I mean, unusual, because it created that impact. And you say that and people go, what's the big deal, right? So you have to be prepared for that. So, yeah.
Thank you. Before I move on, I just wanted to share a little bit about my thought also. As teachers, and as a teacher myself, I first think the first step for any student is to have intent. They should be interested in learning. They should concentrate and focus on their lessons. A lot of practice, like you said, with your students. First they thought it was bizarre, but the more they did it, they could go in depth into it. And dedication, hard work, and discipline. I think these are the foundations that as teachers, we start the journey of any student with. And then, as you said, with experience, with learning, with interest, and that's also very individualistic, they go on their own journeys towards spirituality. So we can only guide them in what they should seek in their knowledge of learning the art form, and then how they experience it, how they feel it, how they expand upon it is their own individual journeys towards spiritualism. So having come to that, we are teaching, I'm just going to segue now from it, because from what our questions were. We are in America, like you said, a lot of kids here, even though they are Hindus by birth, don't even know Ganesha or Krishna or the stories related to that. How would you help them learn more? I know you said through dance, and you also said, but beyond just learning this art form, how can we as teachers help them realize the true potential of it, to develop their connection with the art form? Am I making sense? Vidya, you want to take it first? Okay, Purvi wants to take it first? Yeah. How do we help them look beyond just the physicality of the dance form to what it really is?
As Sir said, it is, as even you mentioned, like it is, we can give that rigorous training, I think. We can give the fundamentals, we can give them all the necessary tools, and then it is up to an individual, how do they want to take it? What? So I usually, as I said, like I provide this kind of story, talking about my relationship with my Vadya, how it was, it is just not only learning, it is about the holistic approach of life. It is giving them more confidence, more endurance, more strength. It is beyond, if I think I'm answering to your, if it's beyond the spiritual or beyond it, like how it is going to help them holistically. That is what I say, like, definitely these things will going to help them in the future. Keeping aligning yourself, your body and mind itself, it's going to help everybody to think clear. And in the Bharatanatyam has this kind of the pause, where like, we can't keep dancing for 2 hours. We have a pause. We have poses, Nataraja. It's all showing the pause and the stillness in life it is needed. This is all the basic things in life that, these are the things that it provides. More than talking about, just because spirituality is, as I said, it's a vast thing. You cannot jump for a student who's coming the first year to, when say 6, you think by 16 years they will be, once they finish the Arangetram, you think that is the end of it and they can understand spirituality. No. We can give all these tools what is necessary that also helps them in their everyday life to think beyond. And that is, if I'm answering you. Yeah.
Purvi? In order to make them understand, I will talk in their language, meaning depending on their age, to touch that topic, I will, for example, if we take today's generation, talk in the language of social media, or talk in the language of what they understand the best, right? So, in order to understand any story, of course, nowadays so much material is available, so I'll ask them to watch. I'll try to teach and choreograph something in the story form, that way they enjoy and learn that story better. I'm talking about the young kids. That way, it connects more with them, because when they learn and when they practice, it's like more imbibed in them and they are understanding it better and they want to know more. If we talk about the adults, older students, senior students, of course, it's a different approach there. I'll ask them to do their homework first, and once they are ready with the story, I will ask them what they feel about, or how they will approach this, or what's their, what do they think about. And then we will start doing it together. Of course, the story remains a story. For example, just to give you a small example, if we are doing a Draupadi Vastraharan, we learn as a part of repertoire, but you learn as an individual piece, where a single dancer is changing characters from one to other. But I make them interact with each other, meaning the student is a character. That way they enjoy that more. It's not boring for them, and they are able to understand it better. Because in the beginning when we teach, they are thinking it's all funny, they're giggling, and they don't understand the in-depth, knowledge of it. So I think if we touch these topics from their perspective, keeping them in mind, I think they will understand it better.
Thank you. Mr. Sharma?
You started the question with many children raised here, although they are by virtue of being born as Hindus, they may not be exposed to some of our religion or culture. Now, in the context of this narrow context of Carnatic music, it's it's a beautiful coming together of our religion, our languages, our even our history and even geography. What I mean is, for example, while I don't have kid students, I can relate from my experience of my 3 boys who have learned music. And when we visited a few temples, I mean, they're not very pious, but my son, when we went to Chidambaram, he sang Sabhapati. So the coming together of, we go on a trip, it's always fun to go on a road trip. When we visit a temple and immediately say, oh, this temple, Dikshidhar sang this. I mean, he likes the kritis, he likes the music part of it. But when I related that, suddenly all these temples, where one temple is not very different from another temple from a kid's point of view, suddenly it becomes very special. Oh, this is the temple where the great Tyagaraja came and sang. Okay, Dikshidhar sang. There was a Devaram, composed at this very temple. So, as the children grow up, if you are able to present a holistic thing, okay, at the center you have the music, but it relates to, I mean, one thing I'm sure you will all understand that when we teach music to the children, when we emphasize proper diction, they are able to learn the language better. Okay, they don't need to. For example, I know in Carnatic music we have Telugu, Sanskrit, Tamil, Kannada. It's not reasonable to expect the children to learn all the languages, but whatever kriti they learn, if we insist on proper pronunciation, then they are able to learn whatever be their mother tongue. If it is Telugu, they are able to speak Telugu better at home without an accent because they are learning music. So music can be used as a vehicle for teaching language, and Vidya made a good point about the Bharathanatyam, the physical side of it. For example, the health benefits of music. I always ask them, why if they, especially slightly grown up children, I ask them why one should learn music. They always typically say because it's our culture, it's part of our tradition. But I also tell them, it helps you with it's physically, it's good for you. Plus it makes sharpens your memory. So there are a lot of other benefits, and so if you are able to package it, so spirituality is very difficult, something if you talk about it for a child to appreciate. But if you present the art form, not just focused on the art side of it, but everything, all the peripheral aspects, I think different kids may pick up on different things. And we also need to, in the past, the teachers didn't have to. When I learned music in Madras, my teacher didn't have to take me to Tanjavur or anything like that. There was no need for that. But now, if you are able to kind of organize a trip, you take them to a few places, have some fun activities, but also mix it up. And then the final point I want to make is my grandnephew, my niece and her husband, they are doing a great job of teaching shlokas to the kid. And of course, the kid goes to school and picks up some simple tunes. But if you look at the Notus Varas of Dikshidhar, that's exactly what he did. He took Western tunes and put some beautiful words in Sanskrit. So we have, the great musicians, we don't have to get very creative because they have already shown the path. So there are a lot of things that we can use to get the children more interested. Not just in music or dance, but a broader ecosystem.
True. I would just like to add one more thing is what we can do as teachers is to teach them, if you're dancing as say, or as you mentioned, like Tyagaraja Kritis, he wrote them at different phases of his life. So if we are teaching a student, say Nagumomo, we need to teach that student at what stage of life Tyagaraja wrote that piece. He was at his final stage. So they need to understand. So as teachers, it is our job to explain in depth about all the aspects of the dance that they are learning. And similarly, if you're depicting Rama, you depict Shiva or you depict Krishna, it would be different. So those are the things that we can teach our students so they understand what they're dancing to. And it's all about connect. So once they understand what they are dancing, they will connect with it, and maybe that will be their first step towards spirituality. So I'm just going to wind up.
Thank you. I heard several points here, and I think it's hard to summarize. This was my dissertation, so it takes about a few hundred pages. One is, we have inherited a tradition that was not composed overnight. There is a certain unstated rigor the composer went through. We all know Tyagaraja was another yogi. So he didn't just say, oh, you know what, I want to feel this, I feel this, and I'm going to pour it out. Maybe you'll make it, but chances are you won't. So there is a rigor and dedication, I like the word surrender, Ishvara Pranidhana, to say that this is the process by which choreography and creation happens. What is that spirituality of that process? It is connection. Whether it's within yourself to a divine, if you believe in a God, that's fine. If you don't believe in a God, but you believe there is a divine entity, that's also fine. No need to beat that cause. And we have inherited traditions that have been choreographed. There's a reason why we don't have the kind of music choreographies coming out for dancing every night. It's a whole different pedagogy of how do you compose it. But we know enough that when we dance to certain music, it just doesn't hit the spot. I don't know about you, but when you dance to many kinds of beautiful fusion music, love listening to it, can't connect. Not because the music is not connectable, because I don't know how to connect to it. So let's not limit choreography with our human limitations. I have been trained as the purist. I only know through my artistry, my sampradaya, how to connect. Which is why there is a tremendous dedication to Angashuddham. How do you sit? There's a tremendous dedication, like Professor Shivakumar said, to the diction, to the pronunciation. Sanskritam is a language of the brain. In another world, I talk about neuroscience of Sanskrit, neuroscience of meditation, neuroscience of dance. And that language really appeals to kids. So we come back to the same. As a community of teachers, as a community of parents who believe in our tradition, don't believe it just because it's old. Take the time to understand, why has this tradition survived? And again, the Natya Shastra is very clear in this. It is individual. When we perform, when we teach, we do not expect everybody to understand and have the rasa. But the beauty of the art is, if you are dedicated to its artistry and its technique and surrender, saying that, I don't know why it works, but it works. Know that it will transform you. And as we present, we are preparing, much like these garbanzo beans that don't cook overnight. Some of you come to us soaked 6 hours. So it's easy for you to get the rasa. Some have a little bit of soaking, maybe several lifetimes.
Some might not even benefit from the soaking.
There we go. So understand, ours is not to question. Do you get it? It's the difference between Lakshmi and Saraswati. Wisdom is your business. I can't say anything about it. I can give you knowledge. Vidya Lakshmi. But if you are going to have the wisdom or not is your business with your destiny. So as we do events like this to understand the magnitude of what we need to study, and I personally leave God out of it. I'm very religious, but that's my business. So I look at the spirituality of Nritta, spirituality of the rituals we do, the spirituality of the Homagundam, the spirituality of Sangeetam. And as we continue to explore and learn ourselves, hopefully we'll inspire generations of students to strive for at least the very same we know and hopefully transcend what we know. Thank you all, Purvi, Vidya, Lakshmi, and Professor Shri. And we move on to the next part.
Thank you, SSVT.
There will not be a break as shown in the schedule. We will be continuing with our next performance. Please give us a few minutes to set up the stage. Thank you.